welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Stephanie. So today's story is going to be a little different. This is going to be the beginning of my new series that I mentioned in my previous video. I wanted to start doing like storytelling, like doing paranormal stories and doing my makeup at the same time, and I wanted to see how that went. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And I also want to mention that any products that I do use, I will list in the description box below as well. So I went ahead and did my eyebrows off camera just to save some time, and I'll pull my hair a little bit back. So let's go ahead and get started. So today's story is based, of course, on a true story, which also was made into a film, which the film was released in 2005, and it was called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Now, I feel like that was one of my favorite movies, right? I was really excited to hear and actually read about the true story of what this movie was based off of. So needless to say, that's what we'll be talking about today. So today's story is about a young girl by the name of Anneliese, or that goes by the name of Annaleise. Born Anna Elizabeth Michel in September 21st, 1952, in a very small town in Klingensburg, Bavaria, Germany. I'm sure I'm butchering that name, but don't come for me. With a very small population of at about under 5,000, a little bit over, sorry, 5,000. A little small town. She was born alongside three sisters and was raised by both parents, Anna and Joseph Michel. And her family did grow up Roman Catholic. They were very devoted. They attended mass at least two times a week. And I also read in one of the articles that the reason why they were very, very devoted was because prior to Annalise being born, which I believe Annalise was the oldest of her other siblings, but prior to her being born, the mother had an illegitimate child, and because I guess at that time it was like frowned upon, they, as a form of punishment, they made her wear a black veil to her wedding, and I guess to repent for her sins, or like to atone for her sins, they decided to like, okay, we're gonna be strictly, you know, very devoted, you know, to church and all that. But unfortunately, the sister did die. She was a girl. Her name was Martha, and unfortunately, she did die in 2000. Oh my gosh, not 2000. In 1956, while she was having a surgery. So it's pretty sad, but I think that was definitely what made the mom become very strict on religion. But I'm not sure if part of that story, if that story is true. I read it on a lot of articles. A lot of the articles had a lot of like different information, even like where she was born and things like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and include just some of the articles that I read about her, so I won't confuse y'all and think that I'm making this, you know, all this up. Now, fast forward to September of 1968, when Annalise was just 16 years old. She suddenly blacked out at school and began to walk around dazed, which Annalise did not remember, and her friends and family did say that she was like in a trance-like state. A year later, Annalise had a similar episode where she woke up in a trance and wet her bed, and she went through a series of like convulsions. Like she really couldn't control her body from like shaking uncontrollably. Now, the mother at this point, she did get scared and decided to seek out, you know, help from the family physician and reach out to a neurologist by the name of Dr. Luthi to try to figure out like what was wrong with her, of course, like what was causing these issues. So Dr. Luthi at this time performed a scan of the brain, and they didn't find anything. So I'm just a little confused as to why they decided to diagnose her with temporal lobe epilepsy without even finding anything. They did tests, but then again, I think back in the day, like, you know, in the 1950s, medicine was that advanced. So that's probably why, I don't know, they just decided to see if medication would help. I'm not sure. So what temporal lobe epilepsy is, it's basically a disorder that causes seizures and visual and auditory hallucinations. So at this point, Annalise was started on the medication, and she was also moved to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. But even the medication and the treatment that she was getting weren't helping her, and she started to become very, very depressed and suicidal. So in June of 1970, Annalise suffered a third seizure at the hospital, at the psychiatric hospital that she was in. And they decided to prescribe her some convulsion medication, including Dilaton, which of course did not help. They also performed various tests, and they performed an EEG, which this was normal. And I didn't know what an EEG was, but I Googled it, right? Because I wanted to know so I can better explain it. I still don't know what it is, but I'm going to try to explain it, okay? It is a test in which concludes the irregularities related to the electrical activity of the brain. If you understood it, good for you. I didn't. I guess it just tests the brain. I don't know. But they did that test. It came back normal. Nothing was wrong with her. So I still don't get why they prescribed her more medication. But again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. So I guess at this point, Annalise, I don't know, I didn't read that part, or I couldn't come across any articles saying, like, you know, she decided to leave the psychiatric hospital or when she left or anything like that. But by 1976, Annalise ended up graduating high school and enrolled into the University of Würzburg to become a teacher. I'm so sorry if I'm betraying these names. I don't know how to pronounce it, okay? I apologize. Now, later on, classmates would go on to say that Annalise was very, very withdrawn, like during the time that she was enrolled in school, and super religious, which, I mean, at that time, I know she was depressed and suicidal, so I'm sure she, you know, continued to devote herself to her religion and just continue to just, I guess, stay reserved. Poor girl, but that's how bad it was for her. Now, in September of that year, after her third seizure, she, in a routine visit with Dr. Lucy, explained that anytime that she prayed, she would hear voices telling her that she was damned and that she would rot in hell. At this point, because she started explaining all this to the doctor, you know, to her neurologist, Dr. Luthi, he decided to, you know, prescribe her another drug. I cannot pronounce it. Aolept. 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 That medication, which of course is similar to clopramazine, which is used to treat things like psychosis and schizophrenia. So at this point, Annalise and her family grew increasingly frustrated with the medical intervention that she had been doing and taking medications for 5 years. And Annalise continued because she just continued to get worse. She at this point was starting to feel like she couldn't tolerate like sacred objects like, you know, the crucifix, the Bible, sacred places like the churches. Like I read something about like a garden or something where she couldn't go past. I don't remember exactly what the article said, but it was just a brief description of like her not being able to go inside like a garden or like in a church or something like that. But it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I mean, in my mind, I would have been like, okay, that's obviously not anything medical related, but you know, it was the 50s, so I don't know, you know. So, and even though Annalise continued to take her medication, she began to believe that she was possessed by a demon and that she needed to find a solution outside of medicine. So she at this point decided to seek out help from a priest and let them know, of course, that she felt like she was possessed. But all the clergy that she approached denied her request, saying that she should just seek medical attention, which, I mean, of course, she had been doing for over 5 years. But nobody believed her, I guess. And I guess back then, these type of things weren't, like, common. They were known, but they were not as common. They also would say that that they couldn't approve any help because they still needed approval from a bishop. Which, if y'all know what a bishop is, I don't know. So please let me know in the comments below, okay? Because I didn't look that up. So because she needed approval, of course, she had to wait a little longer to even get help. At this point, her delusions became really extreme, where she would rip the clothes off of her body. She would go under a table and like bark like a dog for like days on end. She would eat spiders. She would bite the heads off of like birds and like drink her, or not drink, but like lick her urine, and things like that. Finally, after searching for so long, Annalise and her mother found a priest by the name of Ernest Alt, who believed that she was possessed, and he petitioned the actual church for help, right? So because he was able to petition the church, he was able to get the approval from the local bishop by the name of Joseph Stengel, who eventually approved the exorcism with, of course, one condition, saying that they had to keep it like on the down low, like in secret. I guess because exorcisms back then weren't as common. I mean, they were very known, like they started like becoming more known in the 1500s, but they didn't become like popular until like the 1970s, when like that new movie The Exorcism came out. So at that time it wasn't, you know, something, you know, popular to do, or like, you know, be doing randomly, or, you know, in public, I guess you could say. So because he did approve the exorcism, he granted a local priest by the name of Arnold Rentz permission to perform the exorcism. So over the next 10 months after the approval from the local bishop to perform the exorcism, Alt and Rentz conducted about 67 exorcisms, some lasting over 4 hours. During these sessions, Annalise revealed that she was possessed by 6 demons, which one of them, of course, being Lucifer himself. She was possessed by Lucifer, of course, Cain, Judas, Hitler, Nero, and Fleischmann, which of course was like a disgraced priest. I don't know when, in the 1600s, 1500s? I don't know when. I can't remember. So all of these demons would like fight for like power of Annalise's body, and like they would fight against each other, which you know, it's weird, right? But they would fight amongst each other, and like Hitler saying things like, people are stupid pigs. They think that death is over. They think this is over after death. And Judas saying things like, Hitler is just a loud mouth, or a big mouth that thinks he has any type of power here in hell or something like that. So over the next 10 months, Annalise had to unfortunately be restrained because she would continuously like break bones or like rip the tendons from like her knees. She will also try to hurt like the priests. And the only way that they could conduct these type of exorcisms or like these exorcisms were by restraining her. Now, unfortunately, she little by little stopped eating and drinking or anything like that, which, I mean, what if they would have taken her to the hospital, you know? I don't know. Could medicine have force-fed her, you know? Like, could have the hospital, I don't know how it is in Germany, but she was already an adult. Who knows if they could have force-fed her? I mean, I am 100% sure that her parents did not let her starve, for sure. Like, I just feel like no parents having to deal with these type of issues would allow their child to starve. Like, you know, I'm sure that they did everything they could because, I mean, look at it. The story says itself. Like, you know, it's in the story where they did over 5 years to help her and try to figure out what she had, if it was even medical related, you know? So I don't believe that, you know, they allowed her to starve or like, you know, dehydrate, right? But unfortunately, by July 1st of 1976, Annalise did pass away, and autopsy reports state that she died from malnutrition and dehydration because, of course, she was no longer eating and drinking. And I believe she was about 68 pounds when she passed. So after Annalise's death, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but she was 23 years old when she passed away. The story broke and it became a national sensation in Germany. The reason being because both parents and the two priests, Arnold Renz and Ernest Alt, were charged with negligent homicide. So because the two priests and the parents were charged with negligent homicide, they had to go in front of the court and present their case, and they even played the video, or not the video, but the audio recordings that they had taken while performing the exorcisms to justify their actions. Unfortunately, the two priests were still found guilty, but with a lesser charge of manslaughter, and were sentenced to 6 months jail time and 3 years of probation. But of course, the 6 months were later suspended, so they didn't actually have to do the jail time. And as for the parents, they were exempt of all charges because they stated that they had already suffered enough. Which in my opinion, I feel like none of them should have been charged. I feel like they did everything that they could to try to save her life. Now, maybe, I don't know. I feel like they could have probably taken her to a hospital. I don't know if they did. I don't know how that works. I don't know if they weren't able to. I just don't know. It doesn't make sense that they tried for over 5 years to try to get her medical help. Nothing helped. So I think maybe at that point they were just like frustrated and they're like, we don't want nothing to do with any medical intervention, right? At this point they were like, we're going to do strictly, you know, by the church and all that stuff. So maybe that's their way of thinking or their thought process, right? I don't know. But I still feel like they didn't do anything wrong, to be honest. I don't think that they should have received any type of jail time. My son thinks otherwise. My son thinks that they should have, you know, what they got was, you know, a good charge. When I was telling him the story, he's like, well, they could have done certain things a little different. And I'm like, yeah, but I just feel like they did. I feel like they did everything that they could. But I mean, at least her death wasn't in vain. And nowadays, when they do exorcisms, they're able to have a physician in the presence, or they're able to have a physician there to monitor the patient or the person, you know, having the exorcism. So anything like things like this can't happen anymore, because I don't think Annalise had an exorcism, or not an exorcism. I don't think Annalise had a physician there. I think they did have one in the movie, but not in the, and I think I'm just confusing it. I don't think she did, and I think the movie did. I don't remember, but I don't remember reading about it either. So I don't think she did. Now, moving forward, they do, like I said, they do have to have one. So I do want to thank y'all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.